Welcome back to Let the Journey Begin. I am your host, Hilary Roberts, alongside my co-host, Alex Meshi, filling in for Jason Waller.
Hey, Hilary. It's good to be back in the new year.
I know, it's so fabulous. It's really fabulous. And I'm so excited because Monday we're going to support Steven Tyler and his foundation, Janie's Fund, and how they help young women. And so I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, that should be a great event, and may have some big news regarding Steven Tyler coming up that we're going to have to keep under wraps for the time being. But pay attention to our podcast and our social feeds because we may have something cool coming up. But I'll leave that for Jason to announce when he gets back.
How's your mom and dad? For our listeners, I haven't met his mom yet, although I've heard stories like don't mess with her. She's amazing. But his dad, it like dresses impeccably. Everything is all pressed, hair totally in place, and is a brilliant doctor.
So Dad's been having fun with his gym boot camp since those are back open with the whole new variant of COVID and everything. And we actually went to a holiday party, and his gym wants to do a fundraiser for Red Songbird Foundation. So that's what he's been up to. Meanwhile, my mom's been busy remodeling their backyard, and the other day she just mentioned that she needs a bigger house because she ran out of room to plant stuff. So she no longer has real estate for any more gardening or vegetables or anything else. So she's been bugging my dad for a bigger house.
That's so awesome. I love it. I can't wait to meet your mom too, because I heard, that she is not to be reckoned with.
Yeah, she's excited to meet you. My dad's talked a lot about you.
Aww.
So she's real excited. So the next event we have that I can bring them to, they'll definitely be in attendance, and you'll get to meet the whole family.
I'm so excited.
Yeah.
So today I'm really excited about our next guest, which she and I have known each other since 2008. We have the same mentor / spiritual advisor, and we have walked out. We are like blood sisters. We act like sisters. We've done all the gamut that sisters can do, but we've laughed, we've cried, we've fought, been silent, just laughed our absolute butts off. And I just can't wait for you to meet my precious friend and sister, Susie Clothier.
Welcome, Susie. It's great to have you. You sound like you are to Hilary as Jason is to me.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
Except you're way more zen. She and I are more of that intense personality. Yeah. Like you're very like, and she and I are both like, choom, 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 choom. But it can be very exciting, actually.
When we're both Zoom, then that's when we need you guys to come in and just level us out. But
don't tell Jason that. He'll come swinging a hammer to level somebody out.
But I was reflecting on this morning, and life's in session, and I've been so busy, and didn't expect I'd get a little emotional at the start, but to do this with Hilary and to watch her journey and for her to watch mine, it's just a huge, she's a huge part of my life.
That's amazing to hear. And with you guys knowing each other for so long and being a part of each other's journey, before we get into your story, what's the biggest thing you've witnessed within Hilary? Just want to hear, because we got someone so close to her.
I have just loved watching her personal growth in personal relationships in particular. Not only the relationship, with me and just people in recovery and what she's doing for recovery, but this relationship that she has now is all I ever prayed for. And I walked through a lot with her in the past, and I don't know if she's gone into any of that. I know she has. But to see her now is everything I would have hoped and prayed for. Mm-hmm. So it is her relationship that she's in today. And I think it stems from the relationship that she has in trusting God is where she's at today. So seeing this in the new year is just brings a smile to my face. And I just so look forward to continuing this journey and watching her growth and my growth.
That's
She
amazing. Beautifully
inspires me.
said.
And I know I inspire her, so that's a given. But
That's amazing. No, beautifully said, Susie. And to your
Thank you,
point,
Susie.
for myself, I mean, I've only known Hilary a few short years here, and I have to totally agree. Hilary, to not inflate your ego any bigger than we need to, but to give a compliment where compliments due. The personal growth that I've personally witnessed has been huge, and this relationship with Greg has been a testament to the work that you've done on yourself, and now you get to enjoy the fruits.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, so, okay, enough about me. So let's ask you, Susie, what did you want to be when you grew up?
that's funny. I was talking to my niece the other day, and I don't know if I really had any hopes and dreams of being anything particular, like a doctor, or I certainly didn't have aspirations to be in sales like I've been in. I don't know if I had. I just kind of really just lived life. And but it's interesting when I was talking to her about that, when you look back on your life, in what I'm doing today, with my photography and stuff, I wish I had those aspirations as a child. But the beauty of it is that you can do whatever you want at any given time in your life. I'm 62 years old, and I'm in a new chapter as of 6 months ago. And I am living, I guess, what I wanted to be when I was little, and just that's happy, joyous, and free. And I just love my life right now.
I love that. I absolutely love that. So I know a little bit about you. So I'm going to kind of go way back. I want to talk about, when your life started going off the rails. How did that start? And how old were you when you first took your first drink? All of those kinds of things.
Well, we would certainly be here for days on end if we went from first drink to my last, but I really did take my first drink, and I had my first drunk at the age of 2, getting into my dad's wine. When it's almost like, people remember, I remember him barbecuing in the backyard. I remember that rosé wine sitting there in a little cup, and him going in the house, and I wanted a sip, and I drank the whole thing, and he came out and was baffled and went and filled it again, and I drank it again. And we went into the house, and my sister, who I just adore, she is nothing like me, a complete 180. We sat down at the dinner table, and I started to shoot peas across the table at her, and did all. And back then, my parents, martinis and cigarettes, and they thought it was funny, and so that was my first one. But as my father was an alcoholic, but a very quiet one, a very different type of alcoholic. At least that's the way I remember him now. Both my parents have passed, and as Hilary knows, I'm coming up on the anniversary of my mother's death. She passed away 4 years ago. So when I think of them, and I remember my dad's alcoholism, and the fights in particular. My dad was very quiet. My mom would, Dick, get up, you're, blah, blah, blah. And I just remember that angst. And my sister was a tennis player and gone for a lot. She was a very good tennis player. So she was never around. So when I remember in about 5th grade, when the fighting was a lot, I would start taking my dad's beers after school. Mm-hmm. My mom was working, and so I would take my dad's beers every day after school. I didn't drink it, that way. Well, all through, till I got sober. But I drank anytime I could, and in high school, and I was always the one with the lampshade on my head, drinking and driving. The funny stuff. I drank all through high school, and I ended up getting into college. And I remember the university that I went to, I felt a little less than. I didn't come from the type of affluence that my sorority sisters had. So the thing I did in my sorority and throughout my college career was drink and, sing and, but there were plenty of times I was in a blackout, and I probably knew in college that I had a problem with alcoholism. And at that time, it got so bad that by the time I graduated from college, and my sister, by that time, she was a professional tennis player and really quite something. And so I had that stuff too. I had this sister who was, so good. And I didn't want to play tennis. I didn't want to spend the time on a court and practice. I loved seeing all the accolades she got, but I didn't want to put that time in. So, my father's friends saying, "Oh, Dick, I didn't know you had another daughter," when I would come to the golf course, or "Why aren't you anything like your sister?" So many of us heard those sorts of things. And and at the time it's just that they didn't know. My drinking progressed to the point, and I met a man right out of college, and he had just gotten out of dental school. I moved to San Francisco. We were going to get married, and for seven years off and on, upwards almost to 10, that relationship was. I never got that ring, and the fights and the resentment. And that's when a lot of the morning drinking started. And by the time that relationship was really coming to an end, I'd move in, I'd move back out. The last time I saw him was quite a turning point in my drinking. My family knew I had a problem, but I was removed from them in San Francisco. And I went to Chris's house one more time, our house, but I had moved out. I drove over there. I drank before I went. I was in a blackout. I don't even really remember leaving his house, but I got on that busy 101 freeway back down the peninsula, and I was pulled over. And I got my first DUI. And this is the type of alcoholic that I am. I had a 0.34 blood alcohol, and I still was standing there doing a field sobriety test.
Wow.
That's the type of alcoholic that I am. And it wasn't too long after that. That was the last time I ever spoke to Chris. He called me the next morning and he said, "I want to know how you were." And I said, "I got a DUI on the way home." That was it. 10 years of that relationship, and it was completely over. And, God doing for me what I couldn't do for myself, and lots of work on that relationship. But I went into treatment not that long afterward. I finally, got a little bit honest with my internist. But I did go into treatment after that in Pasadena, and it was then that really the wheels came off. Most people, when they go into recovery, I'm not saying that they happily just say, "This is it, I'm done," because this was 1992. 1992, that DUI was January 7th, I think, of 92. And all the way to January 3rd of 1993, I was in and out of 30-day treatment programs, popped up to psych wards, all down in Pasadena. My family brought me back down there. And I could not draw a sober breath. I would drink in treatment. They didn't know what to do with me. They diagnosed me with other things. There's got to be something else with this woman. So they'd pop me to the psych ward. And I was happy in there. I was making moccasins. I didn't have to go to any groups or anything. And then they'd let me kind of have some freedom. So I'd just trot across the street and get some vodka and come back into my little psych room. And, humorous now, except for I think back and I remember I was in there. It was my birthday in this psych ward in Pasadena. And I had a very famous doctor who still has, I think, a radio show. And he just was scratching his head with me. My mom came in the psych ward and I was passed out in my bed on my birthday. And she just came in, plopped down some presents, went to the nurse's station and said, I wish you wouldn't let my daughter drink in here. She's an alcoholic. And that's the type of thing that we do to our parents. And so that was that. And so they moved me into residential treatment. And it was basically the same thing, the same insanity, getting 30 days, sneaking alcohol. It just, alcoholism, I could not live without alcohol in my body.
So, Susie, I got a couple questions for you. Rewinding a little bit when you were stealing your dad's beers, what was the mindset behind that? Was it to try and escape? Was it trying to fit in, be one of the cool kids, and maybe find other friends, especially carried into college when you felt less than because of the affluence or whatever? So, did you turn into like the party girl that was friends with everybody, or I'm just trying to understand where you were at mentally?
I'm a pretty outgoing person, but that drinking, that 5th grade, 7th grade drinking, it was kind of ironically like the drinking in the end. I was by myself. I would kind of fantasize, drinking my beer like I was at some kind of party. I'm in 5th grade by myself. And there was no fun to that drinking. There's one incident that is very profound, which when my parents finally separated, when my dad's alcoholism was so bad, I was in 9th grade. And it was one of those scenes. Listen, I know, and I've heard, and you guys have heard that I didn't have abuse. I didn't have physical, emotional, I guess, from the witnessing the fighting, but it wasn't even knockdown dragouts. It was just that yelling of that alcoholic home. But my father was having an affair, and my mother, we just knew who she was. We went in the car, and this was a big turning point for me. We were in the car. I was in 9th grade. We were waiting. We see him pull up. He's got Sally in the car, and the chase took off, and we went through the streets, and they came to a stop. My mother pulled him out of the car, brought him home, threw all his clothes onto the lawn, and that was it. He moved out. The next day, when I got home from school, I didn't just have a beer. I took whiskey, gin, vodka, every single hard alcohol that was in that house, put it all in one glass and drank it. I remember that too. And my best friend came over and I was throwing up. I remember all of this stuff. Yeah. Now, back then, my mom comes home, Marlene's there, my sister was home, and they were so sad for me, but nobody, she drank because of what happened last night. I drank because I was already an alcoholic. That kind of drinking, Alex, was to remove pain.
So, Susie, towards the end of when you started to realize that your drinking was unsustainable, what was the moment of clarity that finally the light bulb went on and you decided that you needed to enter into a life of recovery as this was better for you?
We need to fast forward because I had 2 periods of sobriety. I did get sober for 6.5 years. I got married. I had everything I wanted except for a child. And then I finally got pregnant, and about 7 weeks into it, I had a miscarriage. And the pain was so great. after 6.5 years of living sober, I took a swig of vodka. And 2 months after that swig, which for me, I know sets off that phenomenon of craving and the type of alcoholic that I am and the mental obsession. But 2 months after, I was pregnant with my son who is now 21 years old. And it took me another 7 years to truly get back to living sober. And the fear of that, the drinking had changed. I didn't drink like I had before because I had a little boy. And yeah, I was soccer coach and I was doing stuff at school. It was the mental obsession. And it got to a point, and this was a defining moment, January 1st, 2007. I woke up, I was in Mammoth skiing with my little boy, and he looked at me in the eyes because I had drank the night before, and he said, "Mommy, you were wobbly last night." Now, this is after, I don't know how many near misses throughout my life with alcohol, seconds and inches with DUIs and getting caught or not getting caught. But it was, "Mommy, you were wobbly." And we got home, and for the next 17 days till January 18th of 2007, that time period from the 1st to the 18th was just absolute paralyzing fear. And something on the 18th, I just knew if I did not get sober and get back to who I was as a sober woman and the sober mom that I wanted to be, I would have killed that child in a car. Something would have happened. And so I remember it. I just moved from a home that I lived in with that young man. My husband and I divorced. He is 9 years sober today, my ex-husband. But I dropped to my knees in that backyard. Hilary knows that house. And I just said, "God, if you will help me get sober, I will be the best mom I can be." And then I picked up the phone and I called my HR, the very same company that I was I've worked for today and I'm working hard for. And then I called a treatment center in the desert, and I entered treatment. And I worked hard in there. And I knew what I needed to do. And I wanted sobriety more than I ever wanted it before. And I knew what to do, and it was going to be, and it was like a spiritual lift to recognize that I can do this.
So, and you've been an amazing mother. I mean, for those that don't know you, you've taken him on all kinds of trips, all kinds of adventures. You've just been a great hands-on mom and just supported him and sacrificed for him. And it's beautiful. And he's a wonderful young man. You lost your mom. And I watched you go through that. And, so one of the questions that we ask, and Alex knows this, is that how do you maintain? So I know that you got sober, you were staying sober, you lost your mom, which was a huge blow. So what did you do to make it through that? If somebody out there right now has had a loss, which there's been a lot of losses, what did you do to maintain through that?
First of all, I have to say, when I lost my father, I was devastated. And I thought that was grief. And I've lost other people in my life, my grandmother and whatnot, and thought that was grief. But from the moment my mother took her last breath on December 27th of 2017, it hit me. It was as shocking to me what grief is. I never knew what grief was. And when we talk to somebody that has lost someone and they're in this pain and grief, you think you know until you go through it.
Mm-hmm.
So it was scary
Mm-hmm.
that kind of physical grief and obsession. I did not even know if I would have survived. And so Hilary was right there. Hilary was there. And I was scared a little bit for my sobriety. I didn't have thoughts of drinking, but I knew that if I didn't do something and I just didn't know what to do, but the first thing is that the troops surrounded me. Hilary surrounded me. I have a beautiful friend, Michelle, drove 10 hours down to my house because she didn't want me being there by myself. My sister was up here in Santa Barbara, and she did come home, and it was a tough time. It was a really tough time for all of us. There were the mudslides up here in Montecito and the fires, and it was just dark. It was as dark as the beginning of the pandemic. But once I gathered myself for about a week, Hilary and I have the same mentor. That's how we met. And so I booked a flight, and I went to Polly Pistol's house. And I tried to work through that grief, but there's no working through it. I did some writing and whatnot, but it's really time. And I got in a grief group, which is really that's how desperate I was, because I don't do those sorts of things and seek those things out. And at first I felt guilty because my mother was 84 and there were people that had lost children. And I thought, this was natural that you lose, but a child, how can I be in there? But grief is grief is grief.
That's right.
And so once I recognized that, it took me a solid year of, and I still once in a while break down, but it's different. But it was a solid year. It was December 27th of 2018. I went to visit her grave, and I FaceTimed my sister from there. She was up in here where I live now. And I got back in the car and I was listening to Charlie Wilson. I'm blessed. That's our guy.
Yep.
And it lifted. I'm not trying to be wooey here, but I felt it lift. And I knew that I was going to be okay. And what was I going to do with this experience? Boy, I could be there for others when they lost their child, or their mother, or whomever. Now I understood what grief was. And now it's the same thing with recovery. I can't keep this unless I can help another. So it's kind of the same thing. So I'm there a lot for people that lose their moms. I get a lot of calls.
So I asked, so how do you maintain just during normal times? What are the things you do to keep your recovery strong?
It's so cool now. I'll tell you. I have the same routine on a daily basis, but I'll tell you something that catapulted my recovery and didn't do so much for others, but I would encourage, was during this pandemic, I Zoomed a lot. I Zoomed a lot of recovery type meetings, but I do the same thing every day. I had 3 books that I read every morning that were meditations and spiritual and in a day at a time. And I just added a 4th, which is really, really fun. So I start my day that way. I talk to other recovering alcoholics. And when I'm at meetings, especially now where I live, I'm so much more aware of the newcomer coming, that is trying to get sober, and helping them by the experience that I've been through, especially those that have relapsed.
Mhm.
Boy,
Mhm.
I am, you know what? You're not a failure till you quit trying. And it is difficult to get back, and especially after 7 years of trying.
Yeah.
But maintain this almost for 15 years now, I don't take it for granted. I understand what that first sip does like nobody's business. I know what it'll do.
Yeah.
But I don't live in fear of it. I live in faith of the gifts that I'm given and the gifts I'm able to give that give me this balance on a daily basis. It's not that hard. You just shift. You shift with it. And I'm so full of gratitude today in particular. Even with, things that are a little uncertain right now, I learned to live with uncertainty. I learned to live with the hiccups. I get more stressed out on the little things than I do the big things. But I intuitively know now, because of the time that I have had in recovery, because of the daily practice that I have, the daily and the relationship that I have with a power greater than myself that's very deep and very personal. And I spend an awful lot of time with God today, an awful lot of time. I have to restart my day quite frequently, but it is fun. It has been really fun getting to know who I am.
Susie, I mean, you gave a ton of insight, a bunch of great tips, and gave us a lot to really process and chew on. Out of all of those things, between spending time with God or your higher power, between reading, the meditation, things like that, what is one action for the day that you would suggest as the top that you would want to give our audience that they can do right now? No cost. Just high reward.
Coming from me, get outside. Get outside. And I don't care if you're in an apartment in the inner city, there's so many cool things to see, people to meet, or if you can get out like I do on a beach or, in the mountains, that gives me more than anything I even realized. I was so busy in my early recovery raising my son and getting him to baseball and making a living and doing all fun stuff. But now it is, what am I doing to feed myself and keep this so I can give it away? And it is that just get outside, look up, even if there's clouds or rain, just the beauty of it. It's like, I'm 62, but I feel like, everything is new again. And we go through seasons. And that I just happen to be in a really good season. I'm by myself with the exception of that little dog most of the day.
Little.
And camera. That's what I'm doing is I'm doing photographs. But
wait a minute. So that's the thing. That's the thing that I want everybody to know about you. So I want you guys to. She has she's bought this amazing camera. She's done stuff for years and made stuff for all the people that we know. But her photography is unreal. And so we have all talked her into starting a business in this. So I want everybody to look for Susie Clothier photography, or it might be S Clothier. We're figuring it out. But you have no idea. And I'm going to push this like crazy, just like people pushed me to go sing.
Yeah.
And I'm serious. And so you get to go to the beach every day. You're with your dog. You get to see all the beauty of everything. And so I just love that you're telling everyone to get outside. And I'm going to let all of our listeners know, keep your eye out for Susie Clothier's photography.
It definitely is a gift, and I think when it's one thing to get outside, but then, to to see it afterwards. I probably take, I don't know. I know Sunday I took about 2,500 photos, and because you don't know what you're going to get, and if and you think it's just this little bird, but oh my God, when you really see and you understand and you kind of see what that little guy is, or a wave, the way the wave hits, or sunsets changing constantly. I mean,
My favorite.
enough of them. And so consequently, when I'm outside and I'm doing this, and I always have the camera and I've always got my dog, I'm also walking. I'm getting in 6-8 miles and I don't even realize it because I'm just following. It's just the coolest thing. And I got to take action on it. And I appreciate Hilary's. She's always been so supportive of the things that I love to do. Just like, I was with her music from the day one, and she'd send me something, listen to this, and oh my God. Oh my gosh, but the one thing I will say, I've taken a lot of photos of Hilary, but Hill, you never let me do backup on any of those songs.
Ooh. Well, Hilary's got something, and it might never be too late.
Oh.
Another little plug. So, Susie, where can people find you, find your art, find more about you? I need to find you because, as you can see, I need art.
I'm just getting there.
Well, we're gonna get you a huge boost right now. What's your @ handle? Is it @ Susie Clothier?
It's Susie Clothier. Yeah.
It's Clothier, darling. It's Clothier.
I'm trying to up position your brand.
Clothier. What's your Instagram? What's your Facebook?
It's Susie Clothier. Both of them are just Susie Clothier.
Good.
But
so
I'm going to get a website going. I've got some things I've been researching, and I'm about there, but I do work full time too. So really right now, I just feel like I'm still practicing in the studio because I've been renting this little place for 6 months while I've been looking for a home, which I'm now in escrow. And so I don't even have a TV in here. So I just sit and edit at night and look at my photos and do things with them and send them to a couple photographers that are here in town. There's some I've gotten into a really good community, and I'm learning more about editing and making it, look right. My first little one I did is that little sunset one up there on the wall.
Fabulous. Oh, she's got some fabulous ones. First of all, I want to thank you so much for being on the show today, Susie. I love you so much.
Yes, thank you for joining us today.
It's really good to meet you, Alex and Hilary. I can't wait until we can connect and you can come up and see my new place. You've been probably one of my biggest cheerleaders. And vice versa.
Yeah.
That is the beauty of recovery.
It is. It's the beauty of recovery. I love you, sis.